And we are live. Good afternoon, alienated parents, grandparents, alienated children worldwide. Today is December 26, 2023, and we're almost at the end of this year, heading into the new 2024. Welcome to Let's Talk on Parent Alienation with Molly and me. And today we have a special guest. We have Kenneth Gottfried from New Jersey. And hi, Kenneth, sorry. I did it
Hey,
again.
no, if we can start with a mistake and just roll by it, it's a beautiful thing.
Oh my, the names, I don't know, associated with a Kenneth and a Kevin. So sorry about that. But anyways,
Okay,
Kenneth
all
is an
good.
alienated father for 10 years now. He had a 15, a 16, and an 18-year-old taken from him. And today they are 25, 26, almost next week. Happy birthday to her. And a 28-year-old daughter. And, this is such a heartbreaking situation, especially at Christmas time today. It was, hard enough. We don't get to see them 1 year, but 10 years, I'm into 18 years, and it just never ends. And this is all due to the family court allowing this to happen, enabling our abusers to get away with, doing whatever they're doing to us, alienated parents. We are the targets for them to bring in revenue into the court system where our children are being used. So here, I'm not going to talk much, but I'm going to share the podcast worldwide while Kenneth tells us what he has done. And Kenneth is an investigative journalist also, so he's got the inside scoop. He also wrote a book. Um, I'm going to get Kenneth to talk about that. I'm sorry, I don't. It's hard for me to say the title because it's killing me. And parents out there that are alienated and grandparents who know that feeling of death inside, watching our live children go through torture, go through mental, emotional, psychological abuse, and we can't do anything about it. So what we need to do is educate these judges and these lawyers who are just fighting for money. It's all about money, and we need to bring our children back to love. So Kenneth, thank you for tuning in on to Let's Talk. Um, God bless you for all you do, and so sorry that your daughters are missing out on you as well.
Well, thank you for having me on, Mary. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it's pretty devastating. I mean, yesterday, yeah, I put on one of my Facebook posts was it's introspection. Because what do? It's like you miss your daughters, you have to go on, you have to move forward. And as I said before, my therapist, your therapist, everybody's therapist, okay, when are you going to let it go? Because, you know, as a parent, as a healing parent, when are we going to let it go to move on to the next thing?
Mm.
And it's so difficult for a lot of us. These were our lives, these were our kids, these were the children we had. We taught soccer with, we went on hikes, we went fishing, we went on vacations, we put band-aids on, we picked on, we went back and forth. I mean, this is what we did. And so to have something like this happen in our lives is such a dichotomy of what do, how do you do it, and how do you do it against a behemoth that is determined to destroy you, destroy your kids, and make money from it.
It's
And
a
that's
prolonged grief disorder that we go through, not only us but the children too, because they're dealing with a live parent that they're literally have to say they're dead.
oh, absolutely. No, and they vilify that parent. And it's kind of ironic, it's kind of scary because we all know at this point, or actually not all of us. I mean, a lot of us are like, what the hell's going on? I'm in the first month, I'm in the 6th month, I'm in the second year, when is this going to go? And it goes in such a fashion to where it dumbfounds the parent that it's happening to. And they're scrambling. What's going on with my kid? What's going on? Why are they stopping texting, talking to us? What's going on? Why are they being horrible to us? And they've never been this way. And to come to grips with all that, and at the same time trying to find out what's going on, and to be let down by the corruption in family court, your attorneys, all the justice system, the DSS, Division of Child Services, all those people, you're literally living in bizarro world. And no one understands other than you when you say, there's something wrong with my girls. I can see it in their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
There's something wrong with them in their actions and what they're doing. And you can't go to nobody, and say, this is going on. But the nice thing about this, the beautiful thing about this, is the fact that people are catching on.
Yes.
And
Thank
more
goodness.
and more and more people are catching on. Now, my books, one of the things that I've always been very good at is pattern recognition. And I can see what's going on, the gears that are turning, and figure out what's going to happen a little later on.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's made me so exceptional in business. I could see the patterns of what's happening in people and where I could drive my business to get the best results. The first book that I wrote was called Victim, and it's how the American Psychological Association, abuses children, murders parents, and grows their base. This is probably it's my top two groups and associations that knows what they do. They don't care because they make so much money. And I've asked them a question, which I'm still waiting to hear from, because I've sent them some emails and I've asked them some questions. And this goes to their letter that they wrote to Donald Trump in June 14th, 2018. And they said, the separation of parents and children at the border is devastating. They knew how horrible it was. They know how bad it was. And they knew in their third paragraph that when you separate a parent from a child, sometimes the parent can't handle this. Most of the time, the children can't handle it, but they take things out in a different way. And there was a guy from Honduras who killed himself, committed suicide while he was in jail because he couldn't protect his family and his kids. So they know that literally kidnapping a child away from a parent destabilizes that parent. They know that parent, that's their thought process, is no longer stable. Okay, so my question to the APA, and I've asked them this, when do they think somebody who's been destabilized and they realized it's them, who refuses to write a press release to say this is also in family court, it's devastating, we need to act on this immediately and stop this from happening? When is somebody going to be so destabilized that they take it out on the APA? Somebody walks in and destroys the place. And that's my question to them. They refuse to respond. Whether it's Kim Mills on Speaking of Psychology, she does their show, whether it's Dr. Jessica Daniel, who was the president, was the current president. I mean, I've been in contact with every single one of their presidents since Antonio Puente back in 2017. And they refuse to address this. They refuse to acknowledge it because they're making so much money that they don't care about children. They don't care about suicide. They don't care about veterans committing suicide. They don't care.
That's right.
And so, you know what? They can keep avoiding this, but what it's going to take is a couple angry parents who are fed up with this, who decide, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take it out on the APA. And then my second book is called Killing Judges. It is basically, I had a friend, or it's not a friend, but somebody I got a review, and he said, "This is not a how-to book." And he was so angry because he thought it was a how-to book. But the bottom line is I go into detail of why, I wrote this book in 2019 of what's coming up. I mean, you cannot be a judge in family court, continually abuse little kids, destroy relationships with parents, and get away with it. People are going to get
Exactly.
sick of it. And so there's been, six child abusers in black robes who have been shot to death and killed.
Mm,
Woo! I don't hold back. These are child abusers in black robes, and they deserve to die.
right.
I will say this again and again and again, because there's a guy, Antonio Pedro Argate, and there was a Judge Wilkinson in Maryland. And that judge ordered child abuse, ordered domestic violence. He ordered it. And he actually gave that father, Pedro Argate, 0 time with his kids and ordered child abuse and domestic violence exactly as it states from the Department of Justice.
Wow.
And that father did exactly what he was supposed to do. He blew that judge's head off. And the guy was a child abuser. That judge ordered child abuse. And in every paper, in every press release, oh, we got to get this guy. This guy, he just murdered a judge in front of his kids. Well, the judge ordered child abuse in front of his kids.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Why don't they look at that? Because that is not their narrative. It is protect the system that is abusing kids.
That's right. I know during my custody hearing on December 23rd, 2 days before Christmas in 2005, the judge called my ex-husband a conniving, scheming, manipulative liar, but he gets the house and kids and don't pay support until the house sells. I was kicked to the curb. I was falsely arrested. 5 months later, I proved my innocence, but a month into the next month, 52 days later, the family court judge didn't even care. He asked, if this matter is taken care of and Mary is proven innocent, she will get everything. Has it been taken care of? Both lawyers said yes. Didn't he move on to the house? And I'm standing there, well, here's the police report. I'm innocent. And he gave.
But that goes back to what I said. In my case, they were like, okay, just get a psychological, because that's usually that first hurdle they throw at you. Go get a psychological, and within 30 days, bring it back here, and I'll give you custody of your kids, or partial custody. I was like, great. Got it done, gave it to the judge. Oh, let's continue this. Let's continue it for fucking 11 months. The whole time my kids are being abused day by day by day.
Yes.
Okay. So they don't care. That's why I don't want to jump where I'm going from, because what it really comes down to, and this is what I've heard from Josh Stein, he's the Attorney General out of North Carolina, the sheriff in North Carolina, the district attorney up in Watauga County, North Carolina. They all say take matters into your own hands.
Mm-hmm.
Because they will not do a thing. They will not follow the law. They don't care about the law. The only reason they care about the law is when they can prosecute you.
Right.
And so take matters into your own hands. And that, unfortunately, that you're only left with one situation. And so even the Division of Child Services, I spoke to many people in the Division of Child Services. There's a procedure if your kid is being sexually abused. There's a procedure if they're being physically abused. You know what there's no procedure of? Psychological abuse.
That's right.
And they refuse to walk into it. So if you believe that your child is being abused psychologically, you have to take matters into your own hands, because these people will do nothing. They will actively further hurt your children and hurt you by bringing it up.
And you know what? When I brought that up in court at the beginning, didn't my kids come back with an affidavit saying I psychologically abused them? They had these terms that only a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist would use. And
Yeah.
the Office of the Children wrote these affidavits because 18 years later, when I was brought to a trial, the kids were suing me because they said I didn't want anything to do with them for 18 years, so I should pay them hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm thinking, well, didn't you say 18 years ago this? So, they're so psychologically abused. They don't know whether they're coming or going. And this is what's going to happen to these children that are, taken from a loving parent at a very young age to be
That,
groomed.
that is what, when we discuss this a little bit, and that is one of the eminent issues, because your kids, if you're believing that they are being psychologically abused, they are in imminent danger daily.
Yes.
Because they're being groomed and abused daily if they don't get the right help.
And I've been trying.
And so I know, but once they're adults and they get past 25, honestly, they'll never, if they ever look back, it's only because something major happened in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so, unfortunately, 85 to 90% of them never come out of that delusion.
No, they don't.
They just don't. And they will be living in a delusion for the rest of their lives, unable to think for themselves.
Yes. And that's what's happening. I mean, 3 of my kids, when I saw them on Zoom trial, their word by word came out. She didn't alienate us. We alienated her. And so why are you bringing me to court saying I didn't want anything to do with you 18 years later? This is an adult, 31-year-old. My 30,
now you say that, but we all know who the people who are actually in the parental alienation sphere. And by the way, parental alienation is really just a word for a shared persecutory delusion.
Yes.
Okay. So when you say parental alienation, it really doesn't have an effect. You have to use the proper psychological
abuse.
Yes. And you have to use that in order to get any reaction for the most part.
Yes.
But your kids were taken away 18 years ago, and they're 35 right now?
36 in the Royal Canadian Navy. The other one is in Toronto. She's 35 last week, 10 days before Christmas. And the other one's 33, living in Montreal.
Yeah, so you're about the same time, like in the between, like the 13, 15, and 17s?
They were 15, 17, and 18.
Whether you like it or not, they're still 13, 15, and 18.
Yes, right, and to that day.
They are mentally handicapped at that time. The moment that they looked at you, put the fear in them of you, or fear of you and them, and decided that you were a danger, is the moment they had to acknowledge psychologically that they're always right. Hence, narcissistic and borderline personality disorder is probably deep well within them. And so there's not a lot. Once they pass 25, 27, they are mentally stunted for the rest of their lives. And they will regret it. They will have anxiety. They will have depression because they treated their mother, father, whatever. They separated it. They did this awful thing. I mean, it's one thing to not like a parent and that's fine if they did this or did that and whatever, but you still talk to them. They're still your parent. And for them not to understand that, that takes a lot of brain damage in that particular delusion to offset that. And it gives them issues, emotional issues for the rest of their lives.
Absolutely. I married an alienated man. He was 9 months old when he was taken from his father. So he never got to grow up. He behaved like a toddler. You had
Yeah,
to basically put a diaper on him. I had to lay out his clothes. I had to do this, 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 and this. And literally, he stomped his feet like a 2-year-old. So
I
my
understand.
kid, my
I
my my
Yes,
kid surpassed his mentality when they were 5.
yeah,
So I'm dealing with children growing into teenagers, and he's left behind as a toddler. It was the most hardest thing to do because he behaved like a baby to get their attention to hurt me. And this is how the manipulation started. The alienation, don't go see mom. She's got a fat butt. Don't listen to mom. Don't listen to mom. It was how it all starts.
yep, absolutely. And but what I'm trying to do is step out of this and look at it from, how do we change this?
Hmm.
How do we stop this from happening from any other children to any other children and to any other parents? And so I'm actively calling up and writing, attorney generals, um, sheriff's departments, and different people in somewhat of authority,
Hmm.
and using what I'm seeing as a warning. Because I spoke to somebody last Saturday over in the sheriff's department. I was like, listen, I know you guys don't want to hear this, but people are realizing that what judges are doing are ordering child abuse and domestic violence right now. I have a website called Child Abusive Judges. I have 815 judges accused of child abuse. You know what we don't have? One sheriff or one deputy that will actually write a report. I have this one guy, let me just tell you, his name is Judge Hal Harrison. He is a serial child abuser. He is an absolute child abuser based on North Carolina, because they wrote, you know, to me and did ethics violations of child abuse from someone who was seeing my daughters and stopped her from seeing my daughters. So they know she was abusing my kids, and they continued it. So this guy is a serial child abuser. I've had over 10 calls against him, and there's 7 people that have tried to file child abuse charges against him that have refused, and they have refused to write a report, which makes them all kind of in this trafficking of children together.
They
So
protect
my
each other.
so my third book, now my books are like, buy me a cup of coffee. They're like $5, $10. They're not expensive, and it goes into detail. And I don't go into a lot of really harsh personal stuff, but I will tell you they're written with a lot of energy from me and emotions from me. The third one is Child Abusers Wear Black Robes. It's how they get away with what they're getting and what they're doing, and with the sheriff's help and with all these other people's helps. But the fourth book, which is the one you have up there, How Would You Like to Die? And
Yes.
you know this. In the United States, $77 billion goes into each state from Title IV D&E. In North Carolina, it was $200 million, which is funneled in there as a grant, and that money goes directly into the Judicial Retirement Fund. So their retirement is getting paid from abusing kids. And I can't get any response from anybody, whether it's the Judicial Standards Commission, whether it's the Bar Association, whether it's the Attorney General, whether it's the FBI, whether it's whatever. And so all of this is going to culminate to something horrible. And hopefully after that, it will stop. But I'm telling you right now, and this is the worst. When I spoke to a deputy over in Watauga County Sheriff's Department, I was like, listen, Aaron, this is my biggest fear. You guys are refusing, and not you guys, the sheriff is refusing to write a report against this serial child abuser. Someone, not me, because I'm a peace-loving, stupid guy, but it's going to be somebody who's going to lose it.
Mm.
And they're going to take matters into their own hands, and then the deputies are going to be called, hey, you need to come out, something bad happened, and then those deputies are going to get hurt because they're not following the statutes of North Carolina or all over the U.S. to report child abuse. They're all breaking that. So when someone goes there, hey, I want to report my child being abused psychologically, everybody, whether it's the FBI, the Attorney General, the sheriff, whoever it is, should write a report right there. It's not their job to do an investigation unless they're going over and have a psychology degree, know all about this, and actually investigate the kids. And that's not their job. Their job is to just take the report. And so from everything else I'm seeing, I mean, the 6-8 judges, family court judges who've been shot up. Woo! Beautiful. The child abusers who've been killed, who ordered their own death because they ordered domestic violence and child abuse.
That's right. They're protecting the abusers.
They're protecting
when I was in the trial, the lawyer was badgering my adult children for a change of motion. My adult children were brought to a trial to protect their father so he didn't have to pay me spousal support anymore after 10 years. So he used these kids as adults to say I was an abusive mother. But my son, in a Navy uniform, suffered a psychotic episode. I had done an interview with Professor Sam Batman, professor of psychology, and I asked him the night before, could my kids suffer a psychotic episode on Zoom after not seeing me for 17 years? And he says, yes. Well, didn't he suffer? So I had to email my lawyer, because it's on Zoom, right? I'm in Hamilton. This is going on in London, Ontario. I emailed my lawyer and I asked him, tell the judge to tell his lawyer to stop badgering my kids. I mean, look at him. He's suffering. This is what I had to do behind the scenes. I mean, there was no...
And the worst part is there's next to nothing you can do.
No.
And what happens, and this is, I'm going to get myself in trouble, but do you have family members or anybody who can, prop you up or help you at all?
They tried.
Okay.
They all got rejected.
That's what happened. But if the problem that I have seen is people always try and do this alone.
Yes.
If you've had people to go up, you need to do this in force. You need to do it on video. You need to take that person's job. If they don't make the report when you have 3-5 people in your family saying, I want to press child abuse charges, and they don't write that report, then you all need to go and file against that guy for a felony or a misdemeanor or whatever for failing to report child abuse. And you need to escalate it until you can escalate it no further, because that is where we're all falling apart. And the problem with this bullshit that we're all dealing with is the blue line, because they all want to protect each other from anything. Oh, protect everybody. And they're going to protect the judges from their child abuse they're ordering. They're going to protect the lawyers. They're going to protect the money coming in. They're going to protect the sheriff's department and the deputies. They're going to protect. It's all about protecting the status quo.
Yes.
And what it's going to take is a militia that says enough of abusing our kids. And I'm telling you, I'm literally waiting because so many veterans are killing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And once the veterans see, oh, they're not killing themselves, they're being forced to kill themselves from the family court. And you look
Mm-hmm.
at how many people, how many veterans kill themselves, and how many of them were stuck in family court. See, one of the problems that we have, or not, I wasn't in the service, but I have a lot of friends who were in the service. One of the problems that we have is we all know 10, 15% of the people that were in the service. Okay, maybe they don't believe they shouldn't have their kids all the time
Mm-hmm.
because they are a little touched.
Yes,
Sorry, it is.
I'm
But
one of them.
85, yes and no. But those 85% that are saying you are dangerous, you can't be around those kids. But it is so easy to do that to a veteran and push them away from their kids. That's what jumps a veteran who is a generally good person, who loves their kids, who did everything in the service for their kids. That's what pushes them to the brink.
And I
One,
had the opposite though. I mean, I was married to a serviceman for 25 years, and he did the opposite. He pushed himself away after each abuse. He went away for 6 to 12 months.
mhm,
So, we had to deal with him leaving on bad notes to coming home thinking everything's going to be fine.
yep, and that's
So,
and that's the issue that we all have is that the steps that should be in place from the Division of Child Services are not in place, and they don't want them in place because 100% of all divisions of child services, everybody there makes 100% of their money from Title IV D&E.
yes,
And so they are not incentivized to actually help kids and what is the best interest of the child. They are there to protect their money and their income stream. And we need to the whole thing needs to be torn apart and put back together again. And the steps that need to be in place to prevent this child abuse, this psychological child abuse, need to be there. Are these parents, the very first thing they should have done is you and you are going into a room and you're going to go into a test. Are you a normal range parent? Boom, boom, boom. Go through the questionnaire. If this happens, that happens, whatever, and it needs to be recorded and be done.
yes,
Okay, and okay, if you are, then none of you should be withheld time, and that's and that
absolutely.
and that's it. Okay, now we're at a place. Now we're at a place where the judge can start, and really it needs to start with 50-50 unless somebody brings up something horrible. And I mean horrible sexual abuse, physical abuse, psychological abuse. At that point, boom, test, test, test without destroying the relationship with that parent.
Right.
And the problem is they don't want to do that because they're still sucking from the teat of the federal government from Title IV D&E.
Yes, they're not
So
making money.
So bottom line is it's going to come down to something really, really bad. And it's going to be something that needs to happen because these people are not going to change.
They don't back down.
Yep.
They
And they're going
don't
to keep
back down.
protecting each other. That's why I've been very, very adamant. When I spoke to the guy, I was like, are you going to like going to a situation that somebody tried to file child abuse charges? Your sheriff refused to do that. The Division of Child Services refused to do any investigation. And so now this person went in and took the matters into their own hands because that's what you asked them to do because you refused to do your job.
Yes.
And now you're coming out and going after that guy? I hope you shoot y'all. I hope every one of you that's out there, I hope everybody listening that's out there Seize the day of reckoning. Do your job and protect kids. It's in all 50 states.
In
Every
Canada
state.
too.
What?
In Canada,
Oh, Canada and the UK and everywhere.
everywhere.
If you suspect child, now this is the best thing. Hey, that's child abuse. You don't have to say that. Hey, I suspect there may be something wrong going on. I'd like to write a report. That's all you have to do. If you're wrong, okay, you suspected it. They went and they investigated it. Okay, there's nothing. But if there's something, they at least did the investigation. They don't even let you file a report of suspected child abuse. That's where everything goes crazy. That's not your job. That's not the police officer's job. Once it goes into a realm of child abuse, write the report and give it to the people who handle it. If it's against the judge, write up that judge. If that judge now, I'm telling you right now, Judge Hal Harrison in Watauga County, if Sheriff Len Hageman wrote him up, he would have 15 to 20 other people calling that son of a bitch out as a child abuser. Do you think he would have stayed there if 15 to 20 people thought about that or said that? No. They would have had to remove him. But instead, they protected him. They protected the serial child abusers. They're in this racketeering of trafficking children, and they deserve what's coming down the pipe. And all I have to say is I feel bad for the minions who have to follow who are literally going to be the front lines and get eaten up and destroyed because the top echelon doesn't want to change the status quo.
Mm-hmm. And that's what the judge wrote in the excerpts in my case. He wrote he can't disturb the status quo so that the father gets the kids. How horrifying, knowing he was a domestic violence offender, a conniving, scheming, manipulative liar. He put in fake affidavits from schools, doctors, kids. He used kids to make them look like adults. I mean, it was unbelievable. And the judge says, oh, it seems like they both have the same amount of affidavits. No, he's got lies. He's got made up stuff.
Yeah, but they're...
And they take them as affidavits. Like, really?
Yep.
You know, it's so sad what we have to deal with, though, is what I'm trying to prove in family court, because everybody thinks they got evidence. Well, your evidence is nothing anymore because they take the word of the abuser, because the abusers usually are the ones that run to the courts and say, oh, I want a divorce because they're dangerous or whatever.
Well, and you have to realize a lot of the judges, you know, they are, okay, they're placating their friends who are lawyers.
Yes.
And so, listen, if they've got a higher paying person that's feeding them, then they're going to go that route. And most of the time, they just don't care. And if they see somebody who's going to be nothing but trouble, making motion after motion after motion after motion, they're going to be like, okay, I just need to shut her up or shut him up. In your case, shut him up. And it's just, they're going to do whatever they can do. So they just stop seeing him. Mm-hmm. You know, they don't want to have this reoccurring person. Well, it's the whole thing's is a joke.
It's a joke because they let him bring me back to court after 17 years, but yet I wasn't allowed to take him to court, you know, to change the support payments, because once the kids turned 18, they should have been higher, my support payments, because now I literally supported him. I was making the hundreds of thousands while he's only got military pay. But yet I'm getting the crap end of the stick because I thought, you know, he's got my kids and the kids needed to go to school and stuff, but they wouldn't come to me for anything. They used the court system.
The worst part about this whole thing is, as a parent, okay, we want to support the kids. But what we forget, and what's really devastating, is that, would you have said that if he was molesting them?
No.
Exactly. And so what we don't, and it's our fault too, because we don't realize how abusive this psychological abuse really is to these kids, because
Mm-hmm.
you would never have given him a dime had you have known how devastating this was going to be.
Yes.
Because most people are like, okay, when they're 18, I'll get to see him again. And then 18 and a half, 19, you're like, what's going on? What's happening? If we knew how devastating this psychological abuse really was, a shared persecutory delusion really was, we wouldn't think twice and we'd shoot that judge.
Well, that's it. And the thing that really made the deal breaker was the fact that my daughters were 16 and 14 at the time, and he came out of one of the daughters' bedrooms, she's 16, and just blurted out, "Have you seen the tits on her? Start buying her sweatshirts." And I'm thinking, who are you talking about? And he mentioned her name. I said, what kind of father says that? What are you doing to my children? And he did that to me for years before I had children. And once I was pregnant, I became a cow. I became, oh yeah, it was violent. The abuse was so horrifying. So when
Yeah.
the children came, I believe my children heard every bad thing he said about them, that he didn't want kids, and then later on, when they were born and getting bigger, the same thing. When they cried, "You're the one that wanted them. I hate babies." So, these psychological comments, the kids know. And I would say,
No, they do. They
why
do.
would you say that to them? Like, they're babies, they're cute. And I'm trying to make it into something good. And because I know I had to teach him how to learn how to love.
No,
He didn't-
absolutely. But
there's-
we, the nuances that we all have, I could go on for 4 hours about the nuances in my relationship.
Mm,
And the hardest thing is to use that, put it in our book, have somebody read it, but to we have to watch out, because if we keep rehashing, we wound up just keep playing that same record. And I'm not
mhm.
trying to be rude to you at all. There are certain things that we do, and if he's doing stuff like that, I don't know what, it's so difficult, because a child is so easily manipulated and destroyed at the same time.
Right.
And now you have these kids that you had an episode with one of them, but you haven't seen them for 16, 18 years,
18.
and you don't know, how do you help somebody like that? Like my daughters, that runs through my life every day. If they
Mhm.
were to call me up, I mean, hey, how are you? I could be whatever, but they're going to be going through such a overhaul, such cognitive dissonance, because what they heard and what actually happened in my side are two totally different things. Well,
Right.
he never came to my soccer games. Well, your mother and I were supposed to talk about that when they were whatever. I didn't even know that they were happening again. I had no idea. I didn't know she was even playing again. And
Mhm.
so, and what do you do in those situations?
They're all
Because
hidden.
yeah, and you can't go to them because, oh, you're a liar.
Mhm.
Oh, we can't believe anything you say. So you're caught in such a conundrum that I could go round and around and drive myself further insane. But instead of that, I'd rather drive all these child abusers that that encourage the child abuse of my kids, and I'd rather drive them fucking insane.
Well, that's what I'm doing, because in the excerpts, the judge literally said, "I'm leaving it up to the discretion of the children to have any communication with me."
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, where were you for the last 15, 17, and 18 years when I was raising these kids with love, and no one told me that I had to give them permission to love me? So you're literally taking the love away from these kids.
Absolutely. And what they're doing, what these judges are doing, and why that this angers me so much, because this similar thing happened to you, that happened to you happened to me, He
Right.
took my daughters into chambers, in the private chambers, where they basically wished I was dead.
Oh, mine too. They wrote it.
And you're like, I all I've done for the last 2 years is fight to see you,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so, to have that happen, if a judge does not understand that that alone is child abuse, then that judge needs to be arrested and thrown in jail. But knowing no one's going to do that, that
Absolutely.
judge needs to be under the courthouse,
Yep.
because that is a pedophile judge practicing child abuse and doesn't even know what child abuse is if it hits him in the face with a frying pan.
That's right.
He should never be there. And what he should have done is recused himself immediately and been like, I don't know what to do. This is above
Get
my
help.
grade.
Yes, because they're not qualified therapists or anything. They have no right, no authority to do that to a child because they're abusing them further. And
Exactly.
that's like my daughter when she turned how old was she? It was 12 years into the alienation, so she was 29 years old. She wrote me on social media and said, "Go kill myself like I was intended to." Where'd that come from? That's the father talking, not my child.
Totally. But that's been it's so ingrained. See what happened when the judge called them out and said, okay, they're this age, and this age. They can now make their own decisions. But yet they took that away for these 6 months or 2 years prior. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. Now, after they've been brainwashed,
Yeah.
after they've been now from a position of authority that you're at, you're saying it's okay to continue this abuse. See, that's where they need to be thrown in jail.
That's where they drag it on to get to that point.
They get to that point, and
Yes.
then they're like, hey, the kids are ready because they fucking hate that person.
They wash their hands.
And
Yes.
then they could, it's the kid's choice.
Yes.
No, it's not the kid's choice. The kids were brainwashed and whatever. And it's sad because you see these children and you're like, unfortunately, they'll never outgrow. Once they hit that 25, 26 years old, they're done.
They're brain dead.
Back, but there's this one girl that's on, God, I can't remember, Maddie, and she's the Anti-Alienation Project on YouTube. Really, really, really good. And every time I see her, I break down because I literally see my daughters within her saying the same stuff, but she's gotten that one step to be like, oh, I get it, but I missed 20 years with my father. I lost that. I'll never get it back. And all I had for those 20 years was hate in my heart for him. And he abandoned us. Well, he didn't abandon us. I just never listened to, never responded to anything he said. And I was lied to by my mom. And, and it's so sad, but I'm living the same MO, the same thing.
It's all
in the same thing. And so what do we do after 17 years? There are people out there that have kind of an idea, but one of the hardest things is to understand what it's going to take if they ever call you up, because there are times across the board you're like, I waited 10 years. What do you want me to do now? But you have to understand they've literally emotionally have been locked away.
Yes. My son wrote me in 2014 during the Fort McMurray fire. He's in the Navy, so he knows. Once I tagged him to say, I'm playing at the Army, Navy, Air Force in Hamilton, come see me. And but before that, he responded to me and said, where are you playing? I want to see you. So I was very polite. I sent him the invitation, the address. I saw him and he caught me in the corner of my eye, his eye, in the room. But once he saw that I saw him, He bolted out of that room so fast. And then after that, he didn't contact me. But next thing I see him in court. So whether he was gathering information or whatever, I don't know. But at least I responded politely, and I told, he sent me messages that he hopes I got sucked in a vortex and all these. It was horrifying. So I wrote back saying, I'm so sorry you're suffering. Maybe we could sit down and talk about it, get some help, because this is wrong of you to feel this way. But then
Yeah, I know, but to break through that barrier of hate and fear and disdain is you're literally going after their entire character, because they have built their life from that beautiful child who wants to just grow up and be the best they can be, to a child who hates their immediate one of their parents, who despises, and that's their being. They're full of hate, they're full of
yes,
anger, and it shows up in anxiety, it shows up in depression, and it shows up with the inability for critical thinking. But the delusion that they're in is that they think, oh, I'm an adult, I can make my own decisions, but they're not.
they're
And
not.
they're never going to outgrow that.
We
And so,
Yeah.
you know,
Sorry, as a domestic violence survivor, we hear their voices in our heads. So our children are hearing the voices in their heads. So they're never going to be able to do anything without the alienator in the back of their head.
absolutely.
We suffered a lot of years trying to get away. Our kids will never get away because I know I'm stuck with one for all these years.
Yeah.
And once my father passed, because I was alienated from him for 40 years, didn't my stepmother call me a few weeks ago, and my father passed 4 years ago. And I said, oh, find time to call me. Why didn't you call me 4 years ago when he died? So, we're stuck with all these things in our heads with our abusers. We don't know how to get
Exactly.
away sometimes. So
No, totally.
our kids are getting conditional love, and they know they could get love from us, but they're embarrassed, they're ashamed, they feel guilty,
The
and they
loyalty
never.
conflict, yeah, the whole bit.
Yeah, so this is what's happening, and these judges need to stop doing it because they're like psychologically abusing our kids. And
What this is my honest opinion. What I think is going to happen. Someone's going to get pushed. There's gonna there, and it's gonna be somebody who's been so destabilized that doesn't understand what he's supposed to do is going to act out, but he's going to act out against their kids,
mm,
and it's gonna be a judge's kid, a politician's kid, um, uh, attorney general, sheriff's department. It doesn't matter. But unfortunately, there's going to be like the school shootings. There's going to be stuff like that against these political judicial kids
oh yeah.
that and people are going to be like, oh, now we need to stop abusing these other kids. And I think only at that point is someone going to be like, oh, and by the way, if anybody's, I'm not doing it, I don't recommend it, but you're pushing people beyond their stabilization mark, where they can't think forward to what they're going to do. They can't understand the reasonability of, oh, I shouldn't do that, but yet they're doing it to my kids, and so this person's off, and they're going to wind up doing that, or people are going to complete are going to group into a militia, and it's going to be a whole lot worse.
So
But that's what I'm seeing.
we've
And
got almost.
I've been right about the judges that I wrote about 4 years ago. I mean, there's been, I don't know, 20 judges killed, 15 judges killed. And so over that time, it's only going to get more and more, and it's only going to get worse and worse. And they
Right.
deserve it. Tough. I have
Yeah.
no animosity. I'm sorry. I have no love or empathy for these people. because they have no love or empathy for any of our kids.
That's right. They have the love for money. But we've only got about 5 minutes left before we hit the hour, Kenneth. But what I want to ask you is, how do we get together to end this, to abolish this? I know education in the court system is very, very important, but how do we get in there to educate these judges?
That'd be ridiculous.
So what do you suggest? What's your solution?
I suggest that 10, 20, 30 of us get together,
Mm-hmm.
and we hold up signs in front of the courthouse and official buildings and call out these people by name, like Judge Hal Harrison abuses little girls.
Okay.
And you have 5 of those, and you have 2, Judge F. Warren Hughes, Judge Rebecca Eggers. She's, abuses little girls and little kids. And then we go in front and we get the names of the media. So whoever's the publisher of the media. So let's just say the Mountain Times. Mountain Times editor Gene Fowler or whatever, and this other person are child abusers and refuse, and cover up this heinous child abuse. Once we start calling these people out by name, and we stand out there for only like an hour, and we let them know, we call up all the media, and we videotape all this, and we continue videotaping as we all go down to the magistrate or the sheriff's office and file reports on each one of these judges and have it videotaped to show how corrupt these sheriff's departments, these police departments, and all these magistrates are, because they refuse to follow the laws and the statutes of the land. There's only one place left that we can go, which is into the Second Amendment. You either protect our kids like it's supposed to be done, or something really bad is going to happen.
Yes.
I mean, there's, we've gotten so far out. Granted, over the last 10 years, something's happening. Or 20 years, something's happening. There's something wrong. There's something bad. Okay. Oh, this is psychological. Okay. This is, well, what's psychological? Oh, this is bad. Okay. Really? This affects 90% of the people? You mean I'll never see my kid again? This is how bad it is? These are what the judges are doing. So it's getting educated and more educated and more educated. And right now we're in a situation where they don't step up to the plate. When I say they, the judiciary, the sheriff's department, the police departments, and don't follow the laws in writing reports to report suspected child abuse, then they need to either go to jail or they need to have something else happen, because these people are not in a position, they are not an investigative person specialized in this type of child abuse. So right. Once, just like things are starting to change when you're filming police and you see all the YouTube videos of all these, insane police officers not caring about people's civil rights, and places getting sued because it's on video. The same thing. We need to show the video of the magistrates, the deputies, the police department refusing to do their job in protecting kids.
Right. Here in Ontario, our Grandchildren Matter group, Alienated Parents and Grandparents group, and my group, Parent Alienation, is Child Abuse group, have gone together, and we go to city carrying our banners for Parent Alienation, but we did not out names. We just
stop it. Out the names, call them what they are, call them child abusers.
Okay.
Especially if you got a judge, what are they going to do? I mean, if you are a person worth thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, hold up the banner with corrupt family courts. Okay. If you have been destroyed and your worth is less than 15, 20 grand, Judge so-and-so abuses little girls, little boys.
Oh, okay.
And, go and hold up another sign. Do you guys have prosecuting attorneys up there?
Yeah, we do. Crown
Okay.
attorneys? Yeah, because my brother got murdered and there was a prosecuting.
Okay, find out who the prosecuting attorneys are. Get their name. Traffics little children. Stop it. Call them out for who they are. Call out the media for not reporting this. Get out, and that's what's going to happen. But you have to do this on video, and you have to bring it down to, the sheriff's department or the magistrate to file charges, and do it all together.
Okay, we have a question. What suggestion do you have for what's that? Gag orders? Gag orders.
Yeah, okay. Let me explain something to you, because I think this was the worst situation that I was in. Is that I was standing out in front of the courthouse because I knew at the time that this judge had abused my daughters, and so I was out there with Judge F. Warren Hughes abused my little girls, and I was subpoenaed in the court and then was given a gag order. What you need to do is go out, or what I would do. I can't give you legal advice. I'm not an attorney, but this is what I would have done. And if I had known how bad psychological abuse is, I would be in jail right now, because I absolutely would have killed my judge.
I understand that completely.
Don't make no bones about it. If I knew I was going to lose these 10 years and not see them go to college, not hear from them, not all, and know that there's going to be a 90%, 85% chance I'm never going to hear from them again, I would have been bad in court. But if I'd gotten a gag order, I was outside the very next day that the judge asked them to go into private chambers.
Mm-hmm.
And I was out in front of the courthouse. Within an hour, I was ordered back into the courthouse and given a gag order. The very next day, I should have went out and held up another sign that said, Judge Hal G. Harrison protects child abusers, and can go fuck himself. Okay? And then I would have, and while I was on the back of my truck, while I was out there, when any police officers, I would have videotaped it, had somebody out there videotape. I want to press charges against them for child abuse, and I want to make sure it's on the record right now that I am filing child abuse charges against both these sons of bitches who are abusing my kids. And I would not have stopped. I would have either been a red stain on the floor, but I would not have stopped. The only thing is that I'm a law-abiding citizen that doesn't believe in that had too much trust in the system. Okay, I'm going to get black playing outfit from Amazon. Protest the judges. I have a decal on my trucks that says family court judges are corrupt child abusers. Do yourself a favor. Banner, a cheap banner, a yard sign. Judge blah, blah, blah is a child abuser. Anybody that gives you a gag order, you tell them, Judge, I'm sorry, this is what I would have done. Again, not an attorney. Get out there. This other judge protects child abusers and is trafficking children along with that son of a bitch. Get my kids help. I want to file charges. And don't do it alone. Get 3, get 5, get as many friends as you can that will support you and be like, when the police come out, yes, I want to file child abuse charges against that judge and that judge. Here's my documentation.
Yeah.
Don't stop putting up with this bullshit.
It's unbelievable.
Any of it. Because in every state, Canada, UK, all across the world, you have every right to file suspected child abuse against anybody. If this judge is overstepping his bounds and ordering child abuse and domestic violence, you get your friends and you say, listen, I'm losing my kids. They're hurting my relationship. And this could end my relationship permanently with my kids. I need your help, please. If they're friends and they know that you're kind of normal, and by the way, everybody, I have no idea if you're normal, but in this industry, this beautiful cottage industry of parental alienation, there is 15% to 20% of us that are a little bit off. And anybody who's talked to anybody in this place knows that.
You know,
So
I think
hopefully, good.
I think people that don't expect it to happen are the ones that can't handle it. Whereas we, survivors of domestic violence, knows what they're capable of doing, so we protect our kids from it. But if it's not all domestic violence is physical, it's mental and emotional. So a lot of them don't know that they're being abused. So when
Totally.
it happens to them, they literally go into panic mode, flight or fight mode, and this is how they become accused of being crazy, whatever else these alienators are calling us, violent, or because our reaction is different. Everybody has a different reaction, and for an alienator to accuse us of um of abuse because of the way we reacted, well, wasn't it their reaction first to abuse us?
But generally, that alienator is a better organizer when it comes to this stuff. Now, I will tell you, I didn't know what PA was. Most people didn't know what PA is until they got into it and they're like, something's wrong. My kids are acting really weird. What's going on? And we have to look into it. We have to learn about this. Personally, I have always stayed away from psychology
Hmm.
because I'm very good at pattern recognitions. I don't want to know who somebody is. And
Yeah.
I know, and so I didn't want to know what I'm looking at and how I'm looking at somebody. I'd always like to see them fresh. But now, having gone through this, knowing what I know, spending the last 9 years into what the hell this is and what's going on, you learn about a whole lot of people. You understand
Hmm.
why vets are killing themselves, why parents are killing themselves. You understand why grandparents go to their deathbed without seeing a grandchild. You understand why people are homeless because they lost their hope to try and see their kids. You
Yes.
understand why people, and they don't have, I mean, everything that I did, and I'm sure everything that you did, every place you bought, everything you sold, every advancement you could do was literally not for you,
No,
for your kids.
it
I'm going
was
to
for
buy
the
this
kids.
land, I'm going to develop this land, and I'm going to leave it to them for my kids so they can have something when I leave and don't have to work nearly as hard as I did.
And then it gets taken away from you, and the kids, they don't have it because someone else has it during the divorce. Our homes
Yep,
are sold just like that. Our homes and money is the number one thing dealing in divorce court. They don't
yep,
care about our children. Our children are the pawns. We are the whatever they want us to be, make us to be, should say,
yep,
whether we're abusive or not. We become the problem. They
yep.
call us high conflict. It's not us that are high conflict. It's the alienators that are high conflict, and the court system projects it onto us. So
Yeah.
this is the vicious
This
circle.
is all about bringing it into court and getting people to fight each other and to
Hmm.
go after, because the more turmoil, the more the longer this is gonna be, the more you can use their kids and the more money we all can make. That's
Yes.
really what it is. That's why I'm saying it's only gonna be a matter of time before someone's gonna go off their rocker and be like, you guys are causing this. Now, just to let you know what would cure this? One press release from the American Psychological Association.
Wow.
Hey,
Well,
we have an issue here, a
yes.
major issue. But you see, the American Psychological Association is in bed with the drug companies and big pharma. They're in bed with, they know if they can have somebody that can have anxiety, depression, and other issues and emotional issues for the rest of their lives, they got a client for life. They got a client for their drug companies for life. They've
Yes.
done their job. And if they can always go and tell them, "Oh, well, how can we cope with this issue?" No, fuck that. How
Mm.
can we resolve this issue? How can we do this and go at this, where this is going to be actual talked about, so so we can go past your anxiety, your depression. What is it that caused this? Oh, you haven't spoke to your mom in 20 years? Oh, gee, hold on. What
Yeah,
the hell happened? Oh, was
exactly.
it at a point of divorce? Oh, geez. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and we have these criminals, these child abusers like Joan Myers from, I think, Stockton University, who writes a book confronting challenging parental alienation, who wants to say, oh, it doesn't even exist. There's no such thing as a shared persecutory delusion. There's no such thing as psychological child abuse. And by the way, if it's an abuser, it's only a guy.
Right.
A
It's
girl
not.
never
It's
does
both.
it. So, and
Abuse
so
has no gender. But yeah,
I
you
know.
know, Justice Taylor in London, Ontario, stated in the court excerpts that I'm not going to order Mary to pay child support since she's not seeking any. I mean, oh, wait a minute. I'm not going to have Mary pay spousal support since she's not seeking any, but I'm going to order you, sir, to pay her spousal support so he can pit the kids against me. This
Oh
is
yeah,
what I was set up for, because at the beginning, he said, if all criminal charges are cleared and I'm innocent, I will get everything,
yep. And
to
and the
end up
bottom
getting nothing.
and the
A phone
bottom line
call, a
and the
phone
bottom
call.
line is that the entire time that you're paying money, you're doing whatever, and he's talking to the kids. Oh, but yeah, I'm sorry, we can't go out. I didn't get the money from your mom.
Yeah,
And it, and you
yeah,
can't come in and be like, that's bullshit, here's my check. That's, you don't have the ability to question the lies that he's telling, like I didn't have the ability to question the lies that my ex was telling my daughters. So
that's
to
right.
them, I never loved them. To them, I should be feared. To them, they're in a delusion.
Yeah.
And
Any
unfortunately,
anything I said in court, he passed it on to the teenage kids, because teenage kids would never have known that before.
no, but he's got to put them in the middle. It's
He's got to,
that's
yes,
the loyalty conflict between the
yes,
both.
and you
That's
hear
the
it.
enmeshment.
You hear the kids younger and younger now talking like that, right? So this is what a tactic they all use. Oh, your mom doesn't love you. You can't go have your ice cream because I didn't get the support payments or the child support. This is horrible. Why even tell a child? You're supposed to be supporting them no matter what.
The worst part in my relationship was I sold my soul to my ex because she came up to me and said, okay, listen, we've got kids now. I just want to make sure that what we're going to do is back each other up. We're never going to badmouth each other. We're always going to back each other up. If I say this, if you say that, yes, dad is right, mom is right, dad is right, mom is right. So she literally groomed me to try and protect her in front of the
Yes,
kids while she was destroying my relationship with the kids.
same,
And
same.
that was
Yeah,
I hate, because I went through my whole divorce trying to be the nice guy when I should have said I need to protect my children, but I didn't know how bad psychological abuse truly was. I didn't know that they would want me dead. I didn't know that they would cut off all communication for 10 years. I had no idea. Now I do. That's why I'm saying, if you think your judge is ordering this stuff, you immediately go to the police with a couple of friends, go to the magistrate with a couple of friends, go to the Division of Child Services with a couple of friends, videotape the whole damn thing, file child abuse charges, make sure they're going to do an investigation. Do not let up. And if they don't do anything, you have to act in your own behalf.
absolutely. And never do it alone. Always take someone with you. As an advocate here in Hamilton, Ontario, across GTA Niagara, I urge everyone out there who is going through a divorce to protect yourselves, because it gets nasty. Before you even walk in, one of you is going to be condemned no matter what.
Yep.
And if you are the one that's condemned, document, document, document. Please contact Kenneth
And
Godfrey here on social media. We're going to put his email address down. But you could talk to Ken, I guess, anytime if you need help, and
no,
myself.
no. You can call me whatever. I'll be glad to help you out. But I I get overwhelmed with stuff,
Oh,
and
okay, okay.
you can contact me, please. Yes, contact me. But I get a lot of people who are like, "Help me out! I don't know. Hey, read my report. Hey, I don't
Right.
know."
Well, I
I
meant
can't be
your
everybody's savior. I can tell you how to save yourself, but I can't be everybody's savior.
no, but you have the book, the knowledge, the videos, just like I have my podcast for people to go to. I didn't
Yeah,
mean like personally attack you because I can't do it. Mentally listening to hundreds of stories daily, it helps others, but psychologically I'm going through the trauma over and over and over again.
yeah.
But if I didn't have my own trauma to deal with, I wouldn't be able to help someone else because I wouldn't believe them. So,
True.
believe in the survivors because they are the heroes. They are the ones that know, and we can change the world that way. We have to stop being victims, calling ourselves victims, because we are no longer victims. We're alive. We're well. We're just here to protect the next future generation of children and my future grandchildren, because I'm already getting messages from my adult children. I will never see my grandchildren. And this is what they heard from their father when he said, if you leave me, you will never see the children again. So now the kids are adults saying,
My
I will never see my grandchildren. And if they
my
do, and if they do have them, they will tell them how abusive I was. Like, really?
my ex did the same thing. We were in child mediation, and I'm like, I want to see my daughters. Stop alienating them from me. And she's like, you're never gonna see it. And she gets up, and in the literally 3 minutes into child mediation, she's like, I'm leaving, and you're never gonna see your daughters ever again. And then walked out. By the way, I was stupid for that point because I should have looked at the mediator and said, what did she say? I will never
Mhm.
see my kids again. Okay, 911. Yeah, I need to file child abuse charges and domestic violence. I need to file that now. I didn't think of that at the time. If somebody says that to you, record it, try and record it, make
Yes.
sure you have a video there, and then be like, oh, 911, I need to file domestic violence, because that is the most painful thing you can do to another person.
That's right. I walked around for years with a recorder. Every time I went to a mediator, the principal, the teachers, I have it recorded. They cannot lie. And so I was prepared for this trial, but because of watching my son suffer a psychotic episode, I shut it down. I said, no more. I need my kids to get help. Whatever I get, here's the money to give them some
But
therapy.
but the thing is they're not going to get the
They're
right help,
adults. That's what,
and
that's,
they're not going to get the right help, because
they're not.
even with the APA, by the way, Dawn, you're right on that. We need to help others, but it's so difficult because we can't get the correct help from the psychological industry. The mental health industry has literally failed.
Yes.
They are the worst of the worst. Anybody who does forensic psychology, oh, how dare you? You're not a forensic psychologist. When you're dealing with child custody, you're not evaluating the children, seeing and evaluating the parents to try and help them out. You're using it. There's so I I don't know what to say, because you're supposed to be helping people and you're intentionally harming children and parents.
Yes.
And those are the people who are in the family courts. But anyhow, sorry, I'll keep going because
No,
this is
I know you will. We're going to invite you back for part two eventually after the new year, because you have so much information and we want to talk about your books still further, especially the last one you wrote. Um, and it's, you're so full of, help, support, and hope for
thank
us.
you. Well, that's what it takes. And now we're at the point now where we've got so much research, so much education, whether or not you're following Dr. Craig Childress, Dr. Bill Burnett, Michael J. Bone, Amy Baker, um, Jennifer
Jennifer Harmon.
Jill
I've
Harmon.
had her on my show. I've had a lot of Dr. Mark Roseman from Florida, the Toby Center for
Yep.
Reunification. I mean, they say it doesn't work. It does work. You have to just know how to do it.
And you
And
have to have the right people, because
yes,
if they don't know what's going on. I am all, honestly, if the kids are coming in and they're being evaluated, there needs to be a specialist or a couple specialists that have a child interview that's videotaped. So there's no inflection and no leading of that child in any way.
yes,
So you can get the honest, you're going to be sitting there. Oh, by the way, Billy or Susie, what's your favorite snack? Okay, because we're going to have a bowl of that there while you can munch on that, answer these questions, and just have a feel. What's your favorite drink? Root beer? Perfect. We're going to have a mug of root beer there for you. All you want to do is sit there and just kind of drink, eat a little bit, answer these questions. And at the end of that, being that there's no one there other than that kid and a video camera, so they can do the analysis of that, you're done.
yes.
And I don't think it should be by a person. I think it should be by a person second, so we can have a video representation, honest questions which are not leading one way or another. This protects the kids and the parents, and therefore at the end, then you can be like, okay, this is where we're at.
Yes. I advocate with Vernon Beck, Canada Court Watch, and he does the voice of the child. And he is making up a lot of these plans for parenting, and so that they could see that the children they need both parents. And also he deals with, arbitration, because arbitration is one of the leading causes of people going bankrupt and losing their children. So that's the next episode here we're going to have coming up, hopefully next week with Vernon Beck. But
Awesome.
I think you would be a good guest to be on with him, because you can amalgamate on the information that you both have to help deal with the family court system. So anyways, I'm going to have to end this, but your last words for today, Kenneth, if parents are going through divorce right now, today or tomorrow?
God, I don't want to say this, but I think I have to, is that if you believe you're in the middle of parental alienation, take your friends. Do not do this alone. Take your camera, and go down to the courthouse, go down to the magistrate, film everything, and file a, suspected child abuse, psychological child abuse, and demand that the Division of Child Services does an investigation. And if you don't get that, do what they want you to do and take matters into your own hands. Because if they're not protecting your child, they won't. And it's up to you.
That's right. And parents out there, alienated parents and grandparents, don't give up on the children, and children, don't give up on your parents, because your parents are out there searching for you, praying for you, hoping for you to come home. It's really horrible that, we're living without you guys, especially, over the holidays, your birthdays, your weddings. Like, wow, we planned your whole life out for you, but we never planned this. So kids, we have to all learn to forgive and forget when we get older. And it's not that, you forget about your abuse if you were abused, but when you haven't been abused and you've been brainwashed, there is help out there for all of us. I know I've been going through therapy for my own problems with, domestic violence. It's helped. My music helps me. My exercise helps me. There's a lot of things out there that we can do to improve ourselves, to help us fight for our children. So never give up, people, never. And I just want to say Happy New Year to everybody out there. I hope you all had a good Christmas. Thank you so much, Kenneth Gottfried, for coming out and talking on Let's Talk on parental alienation and family court corruption. We'll have you back in the new year. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
And
you.
God bless.